Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. I'm Mike Catalano, along with Dan Fates and Jenna Cottrell, and we have a special guest for us this week as we get set for the Bills to meet the Washington football team. It is Scott Abraham, sports director at WJLA, our Washington affiliate. But let's get full disclosure out of the way right now. You cover the Redskins, but...
The football team.
Yes, football team. Look at that. It didn't take me long.
I cover the Washington football team, but I'm originally from Utica, New York, so my heart is always with the Buffalo Bills. I'm a huge Bills fan, but this week, obviously, I'm torn, so I hope for a good game. How's that?
We just hope they have fun.
Yes.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's get into this a little bit here. In terms of this Washington team, I think the biggest connection most people have been paying attention to is the idea of it's Sean McDermott going against Rivera. What would you say about Coach Rivera? What do you see in him that has been so successful in his time in the NFL?
I tell you what, he is a straight shooter. I mean, he's a man of integrity, and he's just so well respected in the National Football League. And from the old regime of Washington, the Jay Gruden and the Bruce Allen era, to now with Rivera, and he's brought in his people with Marty Herney and various front office members. It's a night and day difference. It's the culture, the dynamic, the belief. He just has that presence about him where the players want to play for him, and he gets through to the players. And I think that's a big reason why he's had early success. They won a division title last year. Yes, they were 7-9, but still made the playoffs and arguably probably gave Tampa Bay one of their toughest games in the playoffs. So he's trending this franchise in the right direction. Obviously, baby steps, they're building blocks, but this Washington fan base is very pleased so far with the Ron Rivera era.
Yeah, and you mentioned that playoff game. And, you know, that was a game where we see Taylor Heinicke come in, and he really put a lot of pressure on that Tampa team. And now we've seen him come back again, you know, with a guy everybody here knows, certainly, Ryan Fitzpatrick not being able to play. What is it about Heinicke? What is it about this guy that seems to inspire his teammates?
He's just got the swagger. I mean, he has this confidence. You know, he made the joke today during the press conference. You know, there was a question: any similarities between you and Josh Allen? And he joked saying, "Yeah, he's 5 inches taller than me." So yeah, he doesn't have the arm, he doesn't have the height of Josh Allen, but he has the heart, guys. He has the guts, and he plays with his hair on fire. He's probably best outside the pocket, improvising, making plays happen with his feet. I'm not sold with Taylor as a pocket passer just yet. He has a lot to prove in that regard, but boy, when he gets out of the pocket, improvises, has to throw off balance or on his feet, for some reason he's really on target and makes plays happen. I mean, he was very special in the 2-minute drill last week against the Giants. He had a costly interception late in the game. He didn't get down on himself. The defense did their job holding the Giants to a field goal. Taylor had the ball with 2 minutes left in the game, marched him right down the field in field goal position. That's Taylor Heinicke, and the players respect him because of where he came from. Remember, last year, he was on the couch, guys, taking online courses at Old Dominion University. He thought his football career was done. He got a call. Alex Smith got hurt. He had that calf injury, and by golly, he started a playoff game and played really well, and that's when the national spotlight, the national stage opened up to, who is this Taylor Heinicke guy? So a pretty special story.
I mean, you talk about that, and I feel like Bills fans can kind of think of Josh Allen. Look, we know he was the first overall pick in terms of the Bills in the first round, but at the same point, Allen didn't have any, stars coming out of high school. He had to work his way through JUCO to get to college ball. What do you make of the matchup between Josh Allen and just this Washington defense? Because we know defensively they're going to be after Allen all day.
The big storyline here, guys, in Washington, the fans, the media, Ron Rivera, very disappointed so far with the defensive performance. This was supposed to be Washington's calling card, what this team was built on. They have several first-round draft picks on that defensive line, namely Chase Young, namely Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, Daron Payne. They are big up front. They are talented up front. And for some reason, they are just not playing well this year. Not just the defensive line, but everybody as a whole. They the first week against the Chargers, they could not get off the football field. LA was 14 of 19 on third down conversions. That's not going to do good in the NFL. They were a little better against the Giants, but still, they could not force those turnovers. They could not aggravate and agitate Daniel Jones back there. So I know Ron Rivera is very frustrated. I know defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio is frustrated. Remember, last year, they had a pretty good defensive year. They won some ball games because of the defense. But you look at the quarterbacks they faced last year, the Ben DiNucci's, who's the backup quarterback of Dallas. They faced Nick Mullins, backup quarterback of San Francisco. And then Joe Burrow of Cincinnati, he got hurt last year in that game, and their backup quarterback came in. All those games were big wins for Washington. This year, that's not the case. You have a Herbert, you have a Josh Allen, a Russell Wilson, a Patrick Mahomes. The list goes on. They're facing some top-tier quarterbacks. They simply got to play better, guys.
All right, so bouncing off of that then, just in terms of the defense, do you think that we are going to see, I mean, obviously Josh Allen, a different type of caliber of quarterback, like you mentioned, like a Justin Herbert, as opposed to, a rookie Joe Burrow. But what do you make of how much pressure now is on this defense, considering that they have so much talent and yet have not had those results as of yet this season?
Well, I'm sure they've certainly read the newspapers and heard the radios and watched the televisions. That's all we're talking about is they're not living up to the expectations. They're not, playing up to their standards. So, yeah, I think they take it personal, and I think they're trying to fix it. But I also think the Buffalo offense, which has not played all too well the first two games, they could be in store for a breakout game. So, for me, just looking at it optically, I think this could be a danger point for the Washington defense in terms of, you look at a Josh Allen, he's similar to a Daniel Jones where he can use his legs to beat you. He has that big arm, and the pressure's probably on the Buffalo offense a little bit because they're also getting some negative press because they have not performed to their standard, especially Josh Allen looking a little bit like maybe 2019 version of Josh Allen so far. So I think this could be a recipe for disaster for Washington, especially on defense, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, Scott, that's a great point because you're talking about that, the defense not living up to their expectations. And here we are covering the Bills being like the offense isn't living up to expectations. It feels like something's got to give this week. Because you're talking about, well, the Washington team defense could be in store for, trouble. Or it could be their get-right game against a slumping Bills offense. Like, what is the talk around town as the Bills are now coming, or that they're now coming to face the Bills?
Yeah, that's a great point, Dan, and I didn't think of that way. But, yeah, something has to give, something has to break. And I think what Washington really wants to do is I think they want to pose their physicality. They are big. They are tough up front. I think they want to try to make this a street fight, maybe punch him in the mouth a little bit, see if Buffalo can play that style in terms of that physicality, maybe force Buffalo to beat him with the run game with a Singletary or a Moss. But I know for a fact they're really they understand they got burnt multiple times by Daniel Jones with his legs. I think particularly they're well aware of what Josh Allen can do with his legs. I think they're comfortable with their back end of the secondary, the Landon Collins, maybe holding their own with the skill position guys of Buffalo. But I think it's going to come down to physicality, the guys in the trenches. Can the offensive line of Buffalo contain this really, the strong point of this defense, which is the defensive line?
Just one more for me is, we talked about last year how, crowds weren't really a factor. And here we are talking about Taylor Heineke and playing in a playoff game and all of these things. Like, this is going to be his first real test going into 70,000 screaming fans at Highmark Stadium in Bills Mafia. What is being talked around there? Has that been addressed? Because Washington's played 2 home games in a row, correct? So now they're going to go on a real test into, it's a hostile environment.
Hey. Right? we know how it goes. And this is actually his first road start as a starting quarterback in the National Football League. He started a game in Carolina, that was home. He started the playoff game for Washington, that was home. And then, of course, these first 2 games were home as well. So, yes, it's going to be a raucous environment. How he handles the noise, the audibles, the silent play calls. Interesting to see how Taylor handles this. It's going to be a new experience for him, but he's really just appreciative and grateful for this opportunity. Everything is house money to him because remember, he was on the couch taking online courses. He just made himself $125,000 last week for winning a football game. So that was one of the bonuses in his contract. So he's just confident. He has that swagger. And he feels like he has nothing to lose. We'll see how he handles the pressure cooker of I don't know what it's called now. New Era Field, New Era Stadium. Is that this?
Highmark.
Now it's Highmark.
The Highmark. Okay.
Yes.
Jeez, it changes
Hey.
all the time.
Speaking of McLaren with Heineke with the offense, I want to talk to you about Terry McLaren. I think he is one of the most underrated players in the NFL. I think he's an exceptional wide receiver who has had to sort of work around, relatively mediocre quarterback play since he's been in the league. Tell Bills fans what they're going to see from this guy when he comes into Orchard Park.
He is such a special player on and off the football field. He's everything you want as a leader or a franchise kind of kingpin for your team, because he does everything the right way. He's a grinder. He works hard. He puts in the extra work. Remember, this dude was a third-round pick in the NFL draft. He was kind of an afterthought of that Ohio State teams. There's a lot of good receivers, a lot of good players coming off that team. McLaurin went in the third round, and he's played with a chip on his shoulder, and he's just really a tremendous route runner, great hands, physical. He has the speed. And you mentioned it, Mike. He's played with so many different starting quarterbacks in a 3-year span. I think it's 6 or 7 starting quarterbacks already in just 3 years in Washington. So he's been doing this, not really developing a rapport or a connection with one particular guy like a Josh Allen or a Russell Wilson, a Tyler Lockett with Russell Wilson, or a Stephon Diggs. I know this is year 2 for Stephon with Josh, but it's been a revolving door at quarterback for Terry. So it's pretty impressive what he's done at such a early stage in his career with multiple starting quarterbacks in Washington.
Yeah, he's really something. I want to go back to Ron Rivera for a second. Now, we're used to Sean McDermott, who has a lot of phrases. He likes, the process. He likes humble and hungry, all those. I don't know if he got those from Andy Reid. I don't know if he got them from Ron Rivera. Does Ron Rivera have any of those things he goes back to all the time?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. The whole coach speak. Take it one game at a time, or just don't listen to the press clippings in terms of, is it important? What's important? He always brings up, I forget his line. It's something about important, but he has those one-liners, and he's very open with the media, but he also holds his cards close to the vest in a sense. He does that traditional coach speak, but again, a man of integrity, a man that the players love to play for. And remember, he battled and beat cancer last year. This guy went through the ringer last year with 1, the name change. Number 2, he beat cancer. There was a front office overhaul. There was sexual harassment allegations with the front office, a team owner, Daniel Snyder, in disarray. This guy has done wonders for the franchise, and it's only year 2. He's been through a lot, certainly respected in this area.
Wow. I just have one final question as well. Just, both of these teams so well. Is there anything that a Bills fan should know that's maybe a little under the radar about Washington, but you think could have an impact on this game on Sunday?
Pay attention to running back Antonio Gibson, second-year guy out of Memphis, really versatile. He actually came in as like almost a wide receiver. He had a lot of catches at Memphis, and they use him a lot in the pass game, and also, lining him up sometimes on the outside a little bit in the slot position. So he's a guy that can be a Swiss Army knife, and I want Washington to have more balance, because Taylor Heineke, traditionally he's kind of injury prone. He's gone through a lot of injuries during his career, and he's back there slinging it 35, 40 times a game in his first 2 games. Last week, Antonio Gibson only had 11 carries. He averaged about 5-6 yards per carry. So I would love to see them really kind of develop the running game, maybe, develop that balance, get Buffalo offense off the field. I think Antonio Gibson could be a key part of this game on Sunday.
I just love it because we keep talking about Taylor Heineke, and you talked about how this is going to be his first road start, and you're like, well, he's got this swagger. Like I almost think that that's the wild card. Like, it's almost like you're too naive to understand you're going to go into Orchard Park with 70,000 Bills Mafia, and he's probably just going to go in like, yeah, no big deal. Like you said, I'm playing with house money. I'm not, you know what? Especially after Fitzpatrick goes down, the defense hasn't been playing as well. You're right. It's almost like a no-lose situation. Like, if he loses, they're like, yeah, like, it was a tough trip to go to Buffalo. If he wins, it's like, this guy's incredible, right?
I think we all understand Washington's not expected to win this game, but it's eerily reminiscent to their game last year when they went into Pittsburgh. The Steelers were undefeated at the time. Nobody expected Washington to go in there. They were, I think, double-digit underdogs, and they smacked them in the mouth, physicality, and they handed Pittsburgh their first loss of the season. And then it was an avalanche of horror for Pittsburgh as they just had a horrible end to the year. So, you know what? Again, they're almost double-digit dogs in this one against Buffalo. Not a lot of expectation that they're going to win this game. Don't be surprised if they play Buffalo tough. Again, Taylor Heineke, he's going into a cauldron, but he doesn't know any better. I mean, this is his first road game as a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Throw him out there, coach. Let's see how he does. He could either sink or swim, but the thing is, he's going to go down fighting. So he can either have a 4-touchdown game or a 4-interception game for Taylor Heineke. We'll see.
Well,
sounds like Fitzpatrick.
That's right. Yeah. I was going to say, as Eddie,
you guys are missing out because you're going to have you were going to have a Fitzpatrick reunion, and then you were going to have a Tyrod Taylor reunion, and he's hurt. So I know Bills fans are looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, as you know, Scott, we've got quarterbacks littered all over the NFL in the past years, but they've got the guy they want. One last thing I wanted to ask you about. My memories always are Washington having one of the great fan bases in the NFL. But this fan base has put up with a lot over the past few years. Where are they now? And will we see Washington jerseys in Orchard Park Sunday? Do fans travel? Will they go to watch this team?
You'll have a smattering of fans, but you know, it's been a big decline here in terms of, you look at FedEx Field and their home games. I mean, there's a lot of away jerseys all the time, and they don't sell out anymore. So there's been a very kind of a negative undertone there in terms of they need a new stadium. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere in Maryland. There's no charm to it. And obviously the name change and the rebrand has a lot to do with it too. So I think once they get that settled and you see the progress in year one with Rivera winning division title, year two, you have new front office personnel. I think there's a disconnect with ownership, Daniel Snyder and the fan base. I think that's kind of a thorn in the side as well. But obviously the Snyder family, they're not going anywhere. But I think winning cures all, my friends. You win consistently, you make the playoffs, winning cures all. So they've had a lot of down years. I know Buffalo went through that. Buffalo has one of the best fan bases in the National Football League. Washington's not at that level right now. But again, put some wins together, put some good seasons together, they'll be back.
Well, we really appreciate your time. This was great insight to what's going on in Washington, not only with the team, the fan base, Ron Rivera, guys to watch, what Taylor Heineke's going to do or might not do. I think that's going to be the most fun to watch on Sunday. And you enjoy yourself Sunday.
I am. I'll be kind of monitoring and rooting. Now, I wouldn't say rooting, but hoping for a good game. You know, my Bills and my Washington. It's a no lose situation for me.
Exactly.
So whoever wins, I'll be happy.
Yes, exactly. Well, we've all been through that in one way or another before, but we really appreciate your time. Thanks again, Scott Abraham from WJLA in DC. ABC7 covers this Washington football team and giving us some insight on what we're going to see when they play the Bills on Sunday. Thanks, everybody, for being with us tonight. For Dan Fates and Jenna Cottrell, I'm Mike Catalano. Thanks for watching here on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel.